USA.com.
The first measles death in the U.S. in a decade is in western Texas. A school-aged child was in the hospital in Lubbock. Most current cases in Texas are in unvaccinated children, says emergency medicine physician Dr. Stephanie Whitmer.
Getting vaccinated is one way to prevent infection with measles. So individuals who are not vaccinated are at risk, and we're really seeing that here with this outbreak.
Total measles cases in Texas are 124. Health Secretary Kennedy says measles outbreaks are not unusual. Sounds like the 1880s Old West, but no.
In less than a year, investigators have looked into nearly a dozen train heists in the California and Arizona deserts in which suspects cut air brake hoses, causing the trains to stop, and then multiple people board, stealing mainly Nike sneakers being shipped east. Court documents show a number of arrests have been made, but the burglaries, as they're categorized, are continuing and are often carried out by Mexican citizens linked to the Sinaloa drug cartel. Often trucks are waiting to drive away with cases full of Nikes to be sold on sites like eBay. Alex Stone, ABC News.
A man from Montana has been sentenced to 4 years of probation for threatening to assault former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy after becoming upset with the government for not shooting down a Chinese spy balloon that floated over the defendant's home city. A mixed day for the Wall Street major indexes. Chuck Severson, ABC News.
Give the star in your life the brightest gift in the world. Name a star after them. This is Rocky Moselle with International Star Registry. For $59 and a call to 800-282-3333 or visit starregistry.com, you can name a star for birthdays, weddings, or even memorials. Over 45 years, we have named millions of stars for celebrities and individuals from around the world. The star you name will be recorded in book form in the U.S. Copyright Office. Visit starregistry.com or call 800-282-3333.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
4:05 on this sunny Wednesday afternoon. I'm Will Feelwright with your KVNU News Update. Well, Logan City officials have announced the hiring of a new director to lead the Logan Library. Michael Sowers, an experienced librarian and technology manager, will be replacing former library director Karen Clark, who retired last fall after 27 years in various roles at the library. Now, he'll be joining the Logan Library staff on March 24th. Sowers currently co-leads DoSpace, which is the country's first community technology library in Omaha, Nebraska. Now, Sowers played a pivotal role in the creation of DoSpace, participating in its initial planning and then later implementation of the innovative community resource. Now, a native of Greece, New York, Sowers holds a master's degree in library science from the University of Albany. City officials have praised Sowers for his strong commitment to technology education and literacy. Meanwhile, on Utah's Capitol Hill, a bill aimed at giving Utahns a better shot at home ownership by delaying investor purchases was tabled yesterday, raising questions about what else can be done making housing more accessible. House Bill 151 would have prevented institutional investors from making an offer on a new listing for 30 days, giving individual buyers a head start. Now, Stephen Bond, president of the Utah Association of Realtors, supports the goal of making housing more affordable, but had concerns about how property rights issues were being considered in the bill. Now, Bond said the realtors are not necessarily for government solving the problem, but they're actually about the public-private partnership, allowing the free market to bring ideas and solutions to the table and allowing the government to support those ideas for the betterment of the state. And in college basketball tonight, it's the Aggies on the road against the Boise State Broncos for a late game tipping off at 8:30 tonight. And as head coach Jared Calhoun said yesterday before the team took off on the road, this Boise State Bronco team has several star players.
Yeah, the Carmichael story is really, really cool, I think. You know, a kid that went from, redshirting to now starting, so you got to give him a ton of credit. He's got some size. He can make shots. He doesn't play like a freshman. I think Buchanan is really, really good. He's one of my favorite guys in the conference. And he can drive it. He can shoot the three. He can transport the ball. They got a lot of weapons. They're playing really, really good basketball right now. Here inside the spectrum, it was a great game. It was back and forth. We didn't play very good defense, so being on the road, we're going to have to defend and rebound. It'll be what we got to do to be.
It's Coach Jared Calhoun, and we'll hear more from the coach coming up tonight. with our pregame show beginning at 7:30 here on KVNU. Again, that 8:30 tip-off, and then immediately after the game, our postgame and Aggie call. Weather-wise, going to continue to enjoy sunny skies through the rest of the afternoon today, as we've been in the low 40s today. Tonight, we're going to drop into the mid-20s, then be back into the mid-40s for tomorrow, 50s coming for Friday, and we'll stay in the 50s for first of next week, or for the weekend and into the first of next week. We do have a chance, though. We could see a little bit of rain and snow coming Sunday night into Monday. News and weather this hour brought to you by Triton Medical Supply and Transportation, a partner for all your medical needs, especially if you need a ride to or from a medical appointment, hospital, or nursing home. Remember, Triton Medical Supply and Transportation at 435-557-6687. I'm Will Feelwright with your Wednesday afternoon news update. KVNU's For the People show with Jason Williams coming up next.
Hi, I'm Wendy, co-founder of Bell Sculpt. I know what it's like to feel uncomfortable in your own skin, worrying about how you look, feeling drained, and just not like yourself. Hormone changes, pregnancy, or aging can lead to weight gain and challenges that aren't your fault. That's why I believe so strongly in what we do at Bell Sculpt. I've had a procedure myself, and it transformed more than just my shape. It boosted my energy, metabolism, and confidence. If you're ready to feel like yourself again, Bell Sculpt is here to help. Book your free consultation at bellsculpt.fm.
Information and news you need. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
If you want to save money, Big O Tires Ready, Set, Save sale is here. Now through March 16th, you can instantly save $80 to $100 on select sets of Nexen, Nitto, and Toyo tires. Plus, when you stop by Big O Tires, ask about their Healthy Car Special. It includes an oil change, tire rotation, alignment check, brake check, battery check, and more for just $45. Visit Big O Tires to find a location near you. Big O Tires, the team you trust.
From the land you love to the jobs you do.
This time of year, the farms, ranches, and fields might be quiet, but if you make your living off the land, the real work is just getting started. Now is the perfect time to prepare for the busy spring ahead. Cash Equipment can service or repair almost any tractor, make, or model. Don't wait until the fields are calling. Beat the spring rush. Visit Cash Equipment in Hyde Park and online at cashequipment.com.
Cash Equipment's here to see you through.
Your 401k is likely one of your most important assets, but it's only one part of a comprehensive retirement strategy. Edward Jones can help you understand how your retirement assets fit into your entire retirement picture, so you work toward your unique retirement goals. Contact one of our 11 offices for Edward Jones in Cache Valley, or go to edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
KVNU's For the People with Jason Williams and Bill Walter.
And it is Utah known as the fraud capital of the world. Not because we have more people committing fraud, but because we have so many people falling for it.
Going beneath the headlines and connecting you to the newsmakers.
The radio is a great way to get the word out to a lot of people in an emergency. So we thank you for your help and being a partner with us.
For the People on News Talk KVNU 610 AM, 102.1 FM, online at 610kvnu.com and on the KVNU mobile app.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People, Wednesday, February 26th. I'm Jason Williams. It is beautiful outside today. Not as warm as it looks. 42 degrees here at 4:12 in the afternoon at the Radio Ranch, but still, I'll take it. It does look like we've got a few even warmer days in the forecast over the next 7 days. Some cool nights still, below freezing and even lower. So we're not into spring yet. Just a little reminder now and then from the temperatures. But yeah, just beautiful and warm enough outside today. So I'm in a good mood, even though I've been tracking the legislature all day. So I feel compelled to do a positive story because we're going to be talking about a lot of things that happen on Capitol Hill today over the next couple of hours that are that at least shouldn't make you happy. So I want to start out with one that will. Before we get to that, also start of hour 2 every week, we have an opportunity to highlight the Sutherland Institute's Defending Ideas episode. They do a new, roughly hour-long episode each week, and our listeners get a bit of a sneak preview. And this one's fascinating. Whether you agree or not, it's fascinating. Sutherland Institute, Nick Dunn, and his guest this week on Defending Ideas, a woman named Les Ford, who's a senior fellow at a SPN think tank aligned organization called Alliance for Opportunity, basically making the case that all this talk of reform and budget cutting and all this stuff and reforms to the earned benefits programs like Social Security and Medicare as you age, things like that. Les and Nick making the case that despite all the drama and the circus, if you will, that's going on right now around Elon Musk, around cutting some of these programs in the budget resolution passed last night, Republicans basically saying we've got to make cuts to Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare, and willing to take and believe me, there will be a political response to that, I'm sure. There's still a lot of voters out there over the age of 65, but the argument they're making is we've got no choice. We've got to look into this. We've got to do something. The counter argument, of course, is, tax cuts take revenue out of the system, and so we can look at that. That's what's coming from the left, from the Democrats. And this is an age-old butting of heads between Republicans and Democrats. It's never been any different. Taking a different approach this week, though, Les and Nick, again, Nick Dunn of the Sutherland Institute, Les Ford of Alliance for Opportunity, they're saying that the whole conversation is playing out wrong. We shouldn't be having this conversation at the federal level. Their argument this week in your sneak peek at Sutherland Institute's Defending Ideas is this should be a laboratory, states as the laboratories of democracy kind of moment. And they're worried that we're missing the moment by having this conversation at the federal level. It's a fascinating argument coming from a conservative think tank, Sutherland Institute. So that's coming up at the start of hour 2 of today's show. So again, because we're going to be talking about some things that were said and done on Capitol Hill today that at least shouldn't make you happy, that should have you actually a little irritated maybe, I'm going to start out with a positive one. Just to keep things kind of balanced, mood-wise at least. Some aren't going to feel this is positive. I'm going to hope to try to convince you that it's positive. So a bill passed in the legislature this year, and it's still awaiting the governor's signature. And there is still a lot of campaigning for and against this bill happening, trying to convince the governor to do something one way or another, one side wanting a veto, the other side wanting signature. I'm surprised there's so much controversy around this bill because I think it makes sense, but I get it. It sets up what could be one of the more interesting legal battles around religious liberty that we've seen. The legal battles we've seen around the religious liberties and what the Constitution actually says or doesn't say along those lines has always been, recently at least, tied to some kind of, trumped up culture war thing that half makes you want to roll your eyes. I'm sorry. That's my response when you have something that's built around someone didn't want to. I roll my eyes at both sides of the cake baking thing. Remember this for a long time? This is where our entire religious liberties discussion was centered around, should someone who runs a wedding cake business have to bake a cake for someone else? Honestly, everyone needs to get a life in that scenario. If you're refusing business because you personally don't like the person looking to pay you to bake a cake for their wedding, or disagree with them politically or even religiously, have objections, fine. Don't make the cake. But if they sue you, you should probably lose because we have rules against this kind of thing. discriminatory business practice, if you can show animus, that there was an actual animus to your decision. We have rules against that, and that's a good thing. On the flip side of that, just go to a different cake shop. If someone refuses to bake you a cake because you are requesting a cake for a same-sex marriage, just tell all your friends never to shop there, never to solicit this business. Start a website and a campaign to spread word about the decision of that business owner. All right, have at it. But just go to a different cake shop. That was my entire reaction to all of this. And so it was hard for me to really get embedded in what should be a really important conversation anytime it comes up, the idea of religious liberty and how that is defined or not in the United States Constitution, and how that then trickles down into the legal system. It's a really serious issue and a serious conversation, and I've had a hard time feeling like a lot of these issues that it has come up around are all that serious. Go to a different cake shop and if you sell cakes, sell cakes. Grow up, people. That's my response to all of that. This one is different. And I don't think the sponsor of the bill or the lobbyists, the citizen lobbyists behind the bill, intended for this to be that large of a question. What it is, it's a very simple bill that basically says in Utah, franchises cannot force a franchisee to stay open on Sunday if, when the franchisee bought in to the franchise, that wasn't the rule. So if a franchise decides to change the rules after someone here in Utah has bought in and say, okay, we're going to require you to be open on Sundays now, this bill would make that illegal in Utah, which to me is a common sense religious freedom rule that hurts no one. If a person for religious reasons wants to close their business on a Sunday, they should be able to. And if they bought into a franchise contract, specifically, at least one of the specifics being that they would be allowed to be closed on Sunday, and then the franchise as a corporation changes the rules after they bought in, they should be protected against that. This hurts no one, and it's a common sense rule. And sure, you can have your opinion, that just open on Sundays. Maybe you don't personally care, or that no one should be open on Sundays. Maybe that's your opinion. I think legally, you have to hit this middle ground where banning people from opening their businesses on Sunday is a problem and also has a religious liberty question surrounding it. And forcing people to be open on Sundays is a problem and also has a religious liberty question surrounding it. That is just common sense. But again, in this situation, the law basically says if a person bought into a franchise, like a fast food chain or restaurant chain or retail chain, and when they bought in, their understanding was they would not have to be open on Sundays because religiously that is their preference and belief. And then the franchise changes the rules after that in Utah, the franchisee would still not be forced to open on Sundays. It again, common sense, religious liberty protection there, in my opinion. Also, on the flip side, as has been pointed out, and where the argument around this is bubbling up, there are legal protections for the franchise that make this a little less black and white on this issue. Because in the fine print of most franchise contracts, it says, if you buy in, we reserve the right to change the rules as necessary for the image, reputation, and general functionality of the franchise. That's the whole point of the franchise contract. So it raises some questions there about how far we're willing to go to tell businesses how to do business. And it has people on both sides passionately engaged. I did not expect this. Again, the bill has already passed. And by the way, the story behind this is interesting. This is a person in St. George, franchise owner, and it bought into a franchise called Nothing Bundt Cake. This is, I assume all they sell are bundt cakes, just based on the name. I don't know. There are only 2 locations, St. George and Spanish Fork, both owned by the same person, St. George resident, and named Kelsey Hunt. And Kelsey says, when we first signed our franchise agreement in 2018, Sundays were not a requirement, which was one of the keys for us in selecting this franchise that we wanted to partner with. They were looking to buy into a franchise. They chose this one in part because that was one of the rules. You didn't have to be open on Sunday. For the Hunts, that is an important thing, to not be open on Sundays. Kelsey said, we do believe that Sunday is a day of worship. We set it aside as reverence as the Sabbath day. And it's also the day that we get to spend time with our families. We want the same for our employees in the franchise. And again, this is why they bought into the Nothing But Cakes franchise, because that was one of the options. They could be closed on Sunday. Recently, the franchise owners changed corporate policy. And Hunt says this undermines the original agreement that she had in place with the company. And said it was disheartening, and our passion and love for the brand and the product hasn't changed. We're hoping that the corporation will reconsider this and allow us to have the rights to choose to be closed on Sunday, and as they once did. But pending that, having got no response yet from the corporation that owns the franchise, Utah lawmaker was approached by the Hunts and decided to run a bill. State Representative Ken Ivory, Republican from West Jordan, has proposed a bill, which again is now passed, that would prevent companies from requiring franchises to be open certain days unless such a stipulation was expressly negotiated and included in the initial agreement. To me, this makes sense. But again, there are some important questions around this because, as some attorneys have argued when the debate was happening in the legislature, this also gets into, the rights of a corporation. If a corporation decides that part of their brand is to be open 24/7, and they don't want to allow any single location to be different because it defeats the brand, is the state of Utah going to tell them tough cookies, or in this case, tough cakes? This is a tricky one. What people are saying right after this.
News Talk 610 AM, 102.1 FM, KVNU.
Did you lose your fruit tree harvest last year? Don't let pests and disease take over again. Now's the time to protect your trees with Logan Extermination's Dormant Tree Spray Services. This time-sensitive treatment stops insects, insect eggs, and diseases before they start, keeping your trees healthy all season long. Logan Extermination will treat all trees and offers season-long protection packages too. Don't wait. Schedule today. Call Logan Extermination at 752-8450. That's 752-8450. Logan Extermination, a division of Anderson Seed and Garden.
Got a fundraiser, charity drive, or nonprofit event coming up? Let us help spread the word. Send the details to calendar@cvradio.com and we'll share it with our community. From bake sales to benefit concerts to community celebrations, Cache Valley Media Group is here to amplify your efforts. We're proud to support the people and causes that make our community stronger. Email calendar@cvradio.com today and let's build a better, more connected community, one event at a time.
My husband had a gun. Him and his friends would go shooting. When he stored the gun, he didn't know. In a million years, we never thought that Emily could. There's a hole in our family that can never, ever be filled.
65 Americans a day die by gun suicide. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn more at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
25 NCAA championships, 18 conference championships.
And the Aggies are going dancing.
10 tournament championships.
The Aggies are pulling out the scissors, and they're going to cut down the nest.
Our winning culture continues. Our Utah State Aggies play here on the Aggie Sports Network.
Pre-game begins 1 hour before tip-off. Don't miss game day on your home of the Aggies. News Talk KVNU.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. This was again an unexpected twist, if you will, on what I believe was a very simple bill this legislative session that has turned into something else entirely. And what that is a debate. And by the way, earlier I said it had passed the legislature. What I meant is it had passed the House. And again, Governor Cox has signaled no position on this one yet. But it passed a House committee. It started in the House with Representative Ken Ivory. It's House Bill 441, by the way, if you want to look it up yourself. It passed the House, passed the committee, passed the House floor votes. And today it was heard in a Utah Senate committee. And we've got the audio of the presentation that was given by Representative Ken Ivory. But again, it's a bill that raises some really big questions about religious liberty, about the rights of business owners and corporations, because a well-meaning bill that I think is actually a good bill that protects franchisees, people who have bought into a franchise for a fast food place, a restaurant, a retail shop. They've bought into a franchise, and when they bought in, the rules were that because of their religious beliefs, they may have chosen to buy in for this reason, as well as the case with Kelsey Hunt, the woman at the center of this story from St. George, and the impetus for the law itself, or for the bill itself, not law yet. If they bought in thinking they wouldn't have to be open on Sundays because that's important to them, and then the corporation, the owners of the franchise, change the rules and say we're doing this because of this is how we're going to brand the franchise, which they should have the right to do, right? It's their business. It's their company. And they want to brand it now as an open 7 days a week kind of thing. What about their rights? And so this conversation has been playing out now for a while in the legislative session. We've got the audio for you of Representative Ken Ivory and Kelsey Hunt presenting to the Utah Senate earlier today. But also, if our listeners want to weigh in, 753-5868. I don't have an easy answer for this one. This is one of those scenarios where I'm glad I'm not a lawmaker that's going to have to vote on this, because I don't know. I don't know. There is a real importance in protecting, certain constitutionally guaranteed religious liberties. And one of those would include a religious objection to doing business on whichever day of the week your faith declares the Sabbath. And there are many religions who do this. For some it's Saturdays, for some it's Sunday. There are some that are even like midweek or certain days of the year in which there's a religious reason to not work or to spend time with your family instead of being at work. A franchisee, someone who's bought into a franchise, I think should have the right to live their life that way, including when it comes to being a franchisee. I think that makes sense. If someone has an objection to be open on Sunday, and really important with this bill only applies if a person bought into the franchise when the rules allowed being closed on Sunday. Only when this applies. This isn't a bill that says nobody can force anybody to be open on Sunday. This is a bill that says if someone bought into a franchise and the rules at the time were that they didn't have to be open on Sunday, and as is the case at least with the Hunt family, they bought in because of that. That was one of their decisions to go with this franchise, the Nothing Bundt Cake franchise. They said that was one of their deciding factors, that they wouldn't have to be open on Sunday, something that's religiously important to them. Now the corporation wants to change the rules, or has changed the rules, but to respect the owners of the corporation, the company itself, this is a branding decision. They're rebranding Nothing Bundt Cakes as a 7-day-a-week business. You can come in any day of the week and get a bundt cake. Apparently this is big business. That's a whole other conversation we can have. I'm not even entirely sure what a bundt cake really is. I know I would probably recognize it when I saw it because I've had one before. But that said, the corporation, the company, the owners of the company, they have rights too. And if it's their decision to brand the company nationwide as a franchise, as open 7 days a week, because this is part of their marketing plan, they've said. It's not just a frivolous decision. They're going to rebrand and market the company as a 7 day a week business. They have rights too. And like I say, this back and forth has broken out around this bill. So again, it passed the House committee, it passed the House floor vote. It's now in the Senate where bills, smaller number of votes, smaller number of senators, the bills are less likely to survive the Senate than they are the House. Less of a bandwagon effect happens in the Senate. So the backers are very worried about this bill. And Ken Ivory and Kelsey Hunt showed up at the Senate hearing today to make their case. And it's to me, this is such a fascinating question because it really, I'm glad I'm not a lawmaker on this one. I'm not sure how I would vote. To me, it makes total sense to have a law that says if someone bought into a franchise thinking that that they wouldn't have to be open on Sundays and that's very important to them, and then the franchisee, the owner of the company, they changed the rules after they bought in, and that shouldn't apply in Utah. If a person wants to be closed on Sundays and they bought into a franchise because that was an option when they bought in, that should stay that way, even if the company changes the rules. So that does kind of kneecap the franchise owner, the company owner, but it's protecting religious liberty, which is kind of important. But again, I put myself in the shoes of the franchise owner, the owner of the company, and I'm trying to rebrand this whole company and launch this whole marketing thing around the locations being open 7 days a week now. But in Utah, they won't be. I'm a little mad at that point, and I'm looking to get this franchisee out, to buy them out to some whatever. How do you balance this, and what's the right answer? Well, again, coming up on the other side of the news, we'll have the case that Representative Ken Ivory and Kelsey Hunt made and some questions from the committee around this as well as they tried to wrap their heads around it. But really a very interesting debate over House Bill 441, Franchisee Protection Act. We'll be back with more after this look at the news with KVNU's Will Feel Right.
Thank you, Jason. A man was taken into custody earlier this week after what a deputy called a bizarre series of events involving violating protective orders. Trevor Brett Aslett, a 27-year-old, was arrested Monday on suspicion of third-degree felony stalking. Now, the deputy with the Cache County Sheriff's Office began investigating Aslett's case, which spanned from last December through this month. The deputy said in December of last year, Aslett was arrested for sending threatening messages to the victim and some family members. The affidavit states that Aslett was upset because he did not know where the victim or her child was. Now, the victim told the deputy that Aslett had been using LSD and other drugs lately and that he had become erratic, weird, and dangerous. Now, toward the end of last month, the victim went on vacation to Mexico with her family, and the affidavit states that at the same time, Aslett went to California to try to catch a flight to Mexico. Now, according to the deputy, this is what began a series of events in which Aslett contacted the victim and her family multiple times a day, even sending explicit photos of the victim to the victim and to Aslett's mother. Now, Aslett did not fare well as he had a psychotic episode while wandering around California until he lost all of his belongings, including having his vehicle stolen and ending up homeless for several days until his family found him, brought him back to Utah, and immediately committed him to a behavioral health unit. Now, Aslett was booked into the Cache County Jail on Monday. And a woman in Sandy has reportedly tested 7 times over Utah's legal blood alcohol content limit, all at the same time of having kids in her car. Sandy police said the woman, 31-year-old Carrie Housley, had crashed into a mailbox and then fled the scene, all the while with her 3 kids in the car. Now, Sergeant Greg Moffitt with the Sandy Police Department said that someone saw what happened, called the police with Housley's license plate number. He explained that one thing that was most concerning for officers was that there were children reported in the vehicle. Now, police were able to find Housley at her home, where she took a preliminary breath test that showed a 0.364 BAC. That's more than 7 times Utah's 0.05 legal limit. Now, court documents state that Housley opened a garage door where police found the suspected vehicle was parked. The documents state that the car had a flat front tire, heavy damage to the front, and also missing a front bumper. The woman was arrested and is now facing harsher penalties due to the fact that she had children in the car. No one, though, was injured. And a new bill in the Utah legislature could change how cities fund infrastructure around major sporting venues. Now, Senate Bill 333, which is sponsored by Republican Senator Jerry Stevenson, proposes creating special zones that would generate tax revenue for development projects. Now, according to Stevenson, the bill would help fund infrastructure such as roads, utilities, and housing near event venues. Now, the fund could also be used for demolishing or remodeling an existing major sporting event venue. Now, Stevenson explained that this is done in support of the community. Now, he would not say specifically as to whether or not this bill is to address the upcoming Olympics, but he did say it was partially for a major event that Utah will be hosting in 2034, which is when the Winter Olympics are scheduled to come back to Utah. Stevenson acknowledged that while Utah has existing infrastructure from past Olympics, that more are needed, including some support facilities like housing for Olympic employees and athletes. And get more on these and other stories at CashValleyDaily.com, as we're going to see clear skies through the rest of the afternoon, as we've been in the low 40s today. Tonight we're going to drop into the mid-20s, then be back into the mid-40s for tomorrow. 50s coming for Friday. Looks like it's going to stay in the 50s for the weekend, with mostly sunny skies up and through Sunday night, when we'll start to see a chance of some snow and rain returning to the forecast. And I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News Update. More of KVNU's For the People show on the way.
ABC News, I'm Chuck Severson. A federal judge today denied the Justice Department's request to delay the midnight tonight deadline by which the Trump administration needs to pay nearly $2 billion in foreign aid. It's being appealed. President Trump ordering federal agencies to submit plans for job slashing and other cost cutting. Elon Musk was at today's cabinet meeting. So was ABC's Mary Alice Parks.
Some of those cabinet secretaries worried about national security implications. They worried that they're the ones that should get to decide if someone's job is essential or not at their own agencies.
Under the ceasefire swap, an Israeli security official says 4 bodies have been transferred to the Red Cross from Hamas. And Red Cross buses with hundreds of Palestinian prisoners have left an Israeli prison. Gossip Girl actress Michelle Trachtenberg was found dead today in her New York City apartment, say police sources to ABC News. 39 recently had a liver transplant. This is ABC News.
Today's hearing aid technology can improve not only your life, but the lives of the people who care about you. Once again, you'll be able to hear the reason for their laughter and understand conversations. Dr. Paul Danes at Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology will customize a hearing improvement program to meet your unique requirements, whatever they are. Call Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology for an appointment and let them show you how.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
This is Branch Office Administrator Brittany Chambers bringing you the daily financial market report on behalf of financial advisors Darryl Arnell, Josh Birmingham, and Edward Jones. Stock markets closed mixed on Wednesday with the S&P 500 and NASDAQ modestly higher, while the Dow Jones fell. Markets are also awaiting earnings from artificial intelligence, AI giant NVIDIA today after the close. Revenue growth for the company is expected to be up an impressive 73% year over year for the quarter, although a deceleration from 94% growth last quarter. Overall, markets have been softer in recent days over concerns around a slowdown in economic growth, but earnings reports have provided some relief that corporate earnings continue to deliver. Meanwhile, Treasury yields ticked lower on Wednesday, with the 2-year yield down about 0.02% to 4.1%. This comes after yields had fallen from recent highs of 4.3%, as markets have now priced in two Fed rate cuts this year in June and September, up from just one rate cut expected earlier this year. Today, U.S. equities closed higher. The Dow closed down 188 points at 43,433. The Nasdaq closed up 49 points at 19,075, and the S&P closed up 1 point at 5,956. In stocks of local interest, Home Depot is down $2.81 to $390.48. Lowe's is up $4.68 to $247.07. Nucor is down $1.51 to $134.57. Pepsi is down $4.91 to $151.51. Thermo Fisher is down $6.26 to $533.29. Walmart is down $1.49 to $96.20. Zions Bank is up 45 cents to $53.34. And Northrop Grumman is down $6.14 to $454.87. The price of crude oil was down 17 cents at $68.76, and the spot price of gold was up $12.20 to $2,931. This has been today's financial market report, brought to you on behalf of Edward Jones, member SIPC, and financial advisors Daryl Arnell and Josh Birmingham, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice. If you would like additional information, daily commentary is also located on our website at edwardjones.com.
The Murdoch Auto Team is celebrating 100 years of winter journeys at Murdoch GMC Chevrolet Cadillac, and we want to be a part of your next adventure, whether you're heading to the mountains for a quick ski run or embarking on a snowy weekend getaway. Right now, take up to $10,500 off a new 2025 Sierra 1500. When you walk through our doors, you feel like family at Murdoch Chevrolet GMC Cadillac in Logan or online at MurdochChevroletLogan.com. GMC, we are professional grade.
Call 888-391-6083 or see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 3/3/2025.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Great comment from a listener here on the Google chat. Listener said, shouldn't we always default to protecting religious liberties? And yeah, I mean, that maybe that's how the legislature decides this. For those just tuning in, again, we're about to get to the audio of Representative Ken Ivory's presentation in the Utah State Senate Committee today on House Bill 441, a bill that hasn't been getting as much attention as others, but I think sets up one of the more interesting questions and debates that has been in the legislative session for a while now, because there are two very valid sides to this one. And even Representative Ivory himself, during the House debate, this bill has already passed the House. It's now waiting in the Senate for review. And the governor, again, has signaled nothing on this one. Governor Cox hasn't said whether he likes it, dislikes it, what he plans to do, anything, not a word. And that's probably because this debate has two legitimate sides, very legitimate. On one side, you have a religious liberties question. Should someone who buys into a franchise because one of the options is they can close on Sunday, and that's important to them personally, and then the franchise changes the rules, which is the right of a business owner to do. And in this case, it's because they're rebranding the business as something open 7 days a week. It isn't some arbitrary, I just think we should be open on Sundays thing. No, they're rebranding the entire business. And part of their marketing is going to be, we're open 7 days a week. But one of the franchisees, a woman from St. George here in Utah, Kelsey Hunt, bought in because that was one of the options then, that they didn't have to be open on Sundays. So who wins in this, struggle? Do the religious liberties win? And franchise owners are told in Utah you can't force someone to open on Sundays? Or does the rights of the corporation and the business owner win and say, look, it's their business. If they want it to be the rule that you have to be open on Sundays, that's their right to make that rule. It's their business. And again, the real stickler in this one is that it wasn't the rule when the Hunts bought in. But the rule changed. And that seems to be the argument they're making. It's, look, when we bought into this franchise, we didn't have to be open on Sundays. That rule is now changed. And we went to our lawmaker to see if something could be done. On the flip side of that, again, as a business owner myself, Business owners get to make decisions like that. And if they feel it's best for the brand of the franchise to rebrand it and even market it as open 7 days a week, that's their right as a business owner. And I'm telling you, I really, as a lawmaker, I don't know how I would decide on this one. I like the bill. I think it's important to respect and protect religious liberties, including those that maybe you don't subscribe to yourself. And this person should not be forced to be open on a Sunday if they bought into the franchise thinking that would be an option to be closed on Sundays. Again, flip side, I'm the business owner, and I feel it's best for the business that we rebrand and market ourselves as an open 7 days a week cake business. And a state's going to tell me I can't make that decision in my own franchise contracts. Better believe I'm going to lawyer up, which is probably what's going to happen here one way or another. Either way, here is the presentation that Ken Ivory and Kelsey Hunt, owner of 2 Nothing Bundt Cakes locations in Utah, one in St. George and one in Spanish Fork. This is their presentation to the Utah State Senate this morning.
And sometimes we can have a transparency, pro-business bill that helps franchisees when they're estimating investing their life savings, that they can do so with transparency and fairness. We have a situation here. Franchise law is a matter of state law. It's a function of state law. We have a situation here with multiple franchisors where they sold the franchises on family-friendly Sundays off, and people invested their life savings based on those representations. And a couple of private equity groups down the line, they changed the terms, or are attempting to change the terms, based on an attachment to an attachment to an attachment to the franchise agreement, the operations manual that was an attachment. And now they're trying to claim, having changed the operating agreement, that single mothers who invested their life savings to have a day off, people leaving corporate jobs to do that. This simply promotes transparency. It doesn't mean that someone can require franchisees to work on Sunday, to stay open on Sunday. All it does is, if they're going to do that, it has to be transparently, expressly in the agreement. And I'd like to have Alyssa Jurgensen, I'm sorry, speak just a bit to the committee, and then from there I'd be happy to take any questions, please.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak to you today. My name's Alyssa, and I am a Lehigh resident. With my parents, we have owned and operated our Lehigh American Fork and now Orem bakeries for nearly 10 years. We joined this franchise because we're true believers, not only in our product, but in the company. When we signed on, we were given the option to choose whether or not we wanted to open on Sundays. We were excited to be able to have a family business while being able to maintain our religious freedom. My situation, I am a single mom. I have 100% sole physical custody of my children, and Sunday is our day of rest. Any day for any religious, any day for any faith. So I'm here today to represent my employees, to represent other franchises, to represent my family, and asking for support that we can have a day of rest for religious freedom. Just recently, we received an email where they threatened to take away our contract and not allow us to renew our bakeries. This is our livelihood. We've put everything into it, and we are able to help bring joy to this community because we are able to give our product Monday through Saturday and allow to celebrate every occasion because our cakes are good for 3 days on the counter, 5 days in the fridge. So I'm asking today for your support in our religious freedom to give us a day off, a day of rest. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, many states have very elaborate franchise acts. We don't in Utah, but they have them to level the playing field, and that's all this does, is level the playing field and promotes business, knowing that we're creating certainty in this space. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. I'll bring it back to the committee for questions on the bill.
Seeing no questions, let me ask a couple really quickly. I know we're all hesitant to reach into contracts for lots of reasons. Help me understand the rationale for why you feel like we should reach in this time versus others.
Yeah, right. This isn't, and I appreciate the question. We looked at that very carefully, and so we're not retroactive. We're not doing those sorts of things. It's not reaching into contract. This is just leveling the playing field. The bargaining power between franchisors and franchisees is very, very disparate, very unequal. And so that's why many states have very detailed franchise acts, and this is a very small step to level that playing field where other states do the same thing. In this case, it's the franchisors that are trying to take retroactive action against franchisees. It's not just one franchise, not just one set of franchisees. There's several that I've heard from on this. And again, it's just to level the playing field where they're intimidating, threatening that they lose their franchise if they simply try to honor the commitments that they invested in. This allows us to give investment certainty for those that want to come to Utah, and they know that when they invest in a franchise business, if they bargain for this term, they're not going to be forced to change later.
The committee in the end voted unanimously, though 3 members were absent, 4 who were on hand, which is all they need to have the committee be official, voted for advancing this bill to the Senate floor. What happens then, we'll see. Again, as the chair of the committee there mentioned, the legislature is never happy to dig into contracts, to have state policy dictate what can and can't be in a business contract. So that is an uphill battle for this bill, despite the religious liberty angle. But again, it makes sense. If someone bought in thinking they would have the option to be closed on Sunday, and then the rules change from the corporation, it makes sense to have some protections for them, for their religious choices. Flip side, makes sense to have protections for the business owner too, if they decide to rebrand their business and market it entirely, as is the case with the other woman, Kelsey Hunt, and Nothing Bundt Cakes. It's their right to do that. And if they rebrand as part of their rebranding and marketing is open 7 days a week, our state lawmaker is going to say, as a business owner, you can't make that decision, or you have to allow exceptions to your whole business model here in Utah. I think that's going to be a sticking point for a lot of Utah state senators when this gets debated. And when, I don't know. But you can see the status of the bill right now. Again, it passed this committee this morning unanimously, 4 votes for, 0 votes against, moving it to the full Senate floor for debate, with only 3 missing, including our own Senator Chris Wilson, who I'm sure is pretty busy with the budget deliberations at this point. We'll see what happens. The bill, again, House Bill 411. I've linked to it if you'd like to read the actual language on our Facebook page, and we'll be back right after this.
The Logan Home Show is back this Friday and Saturday at the Cache County Event Center, February 28th through March 1st. Admission and parking are free. Meet local and national vendors ready to help you with your next home improvement project. From solar power, home automation, security, remodeling, design, and much more. See the latest in home improvement, plus free demonstrations. Don't miss the Logan Home Show this weekend at the Cache County Event Center. See times and more online at loganhomeshow.com.
The Best of Northern Utah contest is back, presented by Alpine Cleaning and Restoration. We're asking you to think about those special places that make our community unique and nominate them now at bestofnorthernutah.com. Perhaps you know a mechanic or handyman that goes the extra mile. Maybe a restaurant where you love to unwind, your hairstylist, a favorite car wash, or a medical professional who truly cared. Nominate any business right now at bestofnorthernutah.com. Presented by Alpine Cleaning and Restoration.
Best of Northern Utah.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
We'll get back to the legislature in hour two. Supreme Court Chief Justice Matthew Durant yesterday said the legislature was mounting a, quote, broad attack on the independence of the judiciary. I call it sour grapes on the legislature's part. The Chief Justice called it something that should concern all Utahns. Lawmakers went to bat to defend their set of bills, making changes to the judiciary for, well, basically for ruling against them a couple of times last year. Don't you know who they are? We'll get to that in hour two of today's show. One last bit of audio, though, to wrap up this hour from the Utah State Senate. During the media briefing today, it was announced that a record number of bills officially, again, fourth year in a row, by the way, have been filed by lawmakers. Last year, Senate President Stuart Adams said it's too much. We've got to rein this in. It didn't get reined in. So it came up today with the official tally being now one more bill so far. There will be a few more still before this is said and done a week from this Friday. With one more bill than last year's record filed, Senate President said...
Oh, it's a record in the Senate for sure. I don't know if we're 60 or 100 over what we were last. Yeah, I see the squirm, but I think it's too many. So, but we'll see what we get through.
Senate President said, you have to remember not all of these bills pass, not all of them even get a debate. But he did say it is still concerning to him. He said he hopes that both the House and the Senate can sit down maybe during interim and talk about this and say, folks, we've got to get this under control. We're maybe doing too much. We're maybe taking on too much each legislative session. We're maybe sticking our fingers in too many pies. But either way, fourth year in a row, record number of bill files opened. And we'll see if fourth year in a row, record numbers of bills are passed. But we won't know that until a week from this Friday when they gavel out the 45-day session. Stick around. We'll kick off hour two with Sutherland Institute asking an interesting question. If we're going to cut costs and reform the earned benefits programs like Social Security at the federal level, why shouldn't the states be leading that effort? An interesting question.